So last week, Bitcoin's price was down to something like $82,000. And during our live session, we got tons of comments from people saying that, oh, it's going to 70K, it's going to 60K, it's going to 50K, it's going to 40K. Somebody even said it's going to 10K. I think somebody else said it's going to 3K. All these numbers, they're just pulling these numbers straight out their ass, and they're just trying to get us to, I guess um, they're trying to start something, right? They're trying to instigate and they're trying to piss us off so that they get a reaction out of us. But the funny part is that it seems like Bitcoin has reversed. It seems like it's coming back up. It went from 80K to 90K, and who knows, maybe it'll go lower. But the point here is that a lot of people who are making these predictions are almost always wrong. And they think that they're not part of the herd, but in reality, they are. Because you have some of these people who think they're super smart, thinking Bitcoin's going to 75K. I'm going to sell. I sold at 110K or 105K. Now I'm going to buy back at 75K. But the thing is that they don't consider the fact that they have to pay taxes on their capital gains. And if Bitcoin doesn't go low enough, then either number one, they just broke even. Number two, they lost money. Or number three, they made a little bit of extra money. They bought a little bit of extra Bitcoin, and it wasn't really worth the effort. What do you guys, what are your thoughts on this?
That's the big thing for me is just effort. Like it just takes so much time and energy and stress looking at the price every day. Like I've done it before. I've been there before where I wake up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. to see what the price is like. Like it can be euphoric. And especially when you have the majority of your wealth that's waiting on Bitcoin to do something, that's a pretty unsettling feeling, I think. And I think what most people get wrong is they look at Bitcoin as a speculation. They're speculating on it. They're gambling, right?
Yeah.
Instead of looking at Bitcoin as like a long-term investment or a savings account, because when you treat it that way, then you look at everything through a different lens. It might go up, and your net worth is going to go up alongside of it. Your purchasing power increases with it, but it might go down. And when it goes down, those are opportunities to essentially increase your stack. And if you're anybody like me and us here, we buy every day, regardless of what the price is. We're in it for the long run. We look at this as an investment. It's a compound effect. It's not something where you're going to get into Bitcoin and then you're going to make one right decision and your life's going to be changed. It's a compound effect of many small actions over a long period of time with conviction and storing it properly. And that is how I think that people are actually going to change their life using Bitcoin.
It's a lot of effort, as you guys said, and it's also just a lot of risk. Like you're risking a lot by moving in and out of an asset that is finite, that is going to, that like a lot of these people that are trading Bitcoin and trying to time these different things and making predictions of bottoms and tops and all of this, they're actually believers of Bitcoin. They just haven't figured out the time horizon thing of it yet. Like they're in this asset because they understand it to some degree. I would say they don't understand it enough to just hold on to it because they're risking those finite sats by timing it incorrectly. And, I think we're going to title this video, Your Prediction is Wrong. And it's because your prediction is 99% of the time going to be wrong. And if you're trying to predict and if you have a 1% chance maybe or less of actually predicting something correct, and you making more Bitcoin or having more Bitcoin relies on that small chance that you might be right, you're risking way more than you realize. And the risk-free way of increasing your wealth with Bitcoin is by buying and holding and having a long-term time horizon, right? There's that statistic of if you hold Bitcoin for 4 years, denominated in US dollars, you will nominally be higher in value. So that should be your minimum time horizon. And if you're holding it for less than that, then you're gambling, you're speculating, and you don't have that investor mindset of a long-term asset, and you probably lack the understanding of what it is you actually hold to the degree that you should have.
And I think one thing that just adds on to this is you put in all that effort to sell, you think it's topped, and then you think it's going to go to another bottom. You put in all that effort, you try to, I think the problem here is that you're not compounding in the right way. When you sell your Bitcoin, you're giving away part of your effort to the government. That tax, that amount that they're taking as taxes, that's huge. Because you could end up with, let's say you actually end up with a 40%, let's say you're right, and you end up with Bitcoin going down 40%, but you have to pay, let's say 30% in taxes. You, just for round numbers, you made like 10%, let's say. That 10% isn't worth it. You could probably make way more money, way more Bitcoin if you built your business. And if you helped to compound in that way, if you created a better product, you can literally be creating more Bitcoin forever if you were to do something like that. If you were to research a certain topic, if you were to learn a certain skill, and you were to sell that skill to the market, that would make you a lot more Bitcoin rather than constantly thinking about, oh, Bitcoin's going to go down, Bitcoin's going to go up, I need to trade in and out, I need to do this and that. I mean, that works for some people, but most people lose money doing that. And there's a reason for that. It's because they think that they're separate from the herd, but they're actually part of the herd.
Yep.
They think that because Bitcoin has gone down, it'll keep going down. It's just the way that people think. And then the bottoms are formed when everybody's capitulated and they all think, okay, yeah, Bitcoin is going lower, or Bitcoin is actually, yeah, when they think Bitcoin is going lower and everybody just gives away their Bitcoin, they sell everything they have. That's when bottoms are formed. Tops are formed when everybody's thinking, oh yeah, it's going to go up forever.
Yep.
It's because they've already put their money into Bitcoin. It works the opposite way that people think it does. Like when I worked at TD, and we had that crazy weed phase at one point where people were buying as much as they could, and people were calling in. They're like, oh, I want to buy one share of this company. And the commission was $10. If I understood market dynamics at that point, I would have understood that, okay, this is the top. Because people were thinking, oh, I'm going to buy one share. It was like $64 or something at that point. They paid $10 in commission. So the total transaction fee was like $74 or something. And then they have to pay another commission to sell. So if you think about it.
And then capital gains if it's gone up.
Exactly. So TD is taking $20 out of your transaction. And then you have to also consider when you buy and sell, you have to pay that fee, the spread. So in this case, TD is taking $20 out of your $84 that you get. So if that stock goes up like 30%, you still lose money.
Yeah, and so that just shows you the real winner there is the brokerage.
Exactly, the brokerage. That's like
this is the Wolf of Wall
Coinbase is going to win no matter what. Your exchange is going to win no matter what because they charge you that fee. But you need the price to go a lot lower. So I mean, this is I guess this is the, what is it called? Not breakage. Breakage is when you have a product that gets stolen or it breaks, right? What would this be called? It's just a leak.
Like the slippage?
Yeah, slippage. That's what it is. It's a leak in what you should be getting versus what you actually get. And I don't think it's worth it. It doesn't make any sense.
The other thing too that I would just say, like you mentioned Coinbase. Coinbase's main incentive is for you to trade. So they're going to talk about the newest meme coins that they've listed. They're going to send you an alert when the price goes up and when the price goes down. They're doing that because they know that when they send those alerts, that it's going to trigger people trading and they make money on the fees. And you're just part of the herd, as Rajat said. Like one evidence of this, like you mentioned the weed stocks and people calling in like more and more. We started this episode talking about how we've gotten a lot more comments. These commenters come out as the price is going down. You know, they're not calling it beforehand. They're calling it when it's actually happening, thinking that they're smart. And it's like, yeah, we all know the price is going down, man. Like we see it, like it's down 10% or 5% or whatever, right? You're not ahead of anybody by calling it while it's happening. And again, then you make a prediction, a random prediction of when it's going to bottom. Like, yeah, good luck with that, right? Like, maybe this is a dead cat bounce that we're having right now. Maybe it's not. Like, are you going to trade this? Good luck. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
There's just so many factors involved. That's the whole thing here is like, there's a lot of capital at hand here at play, right? And people think that it's the people on Twitter are the ones moving the market. They have nothing to do with any of it. They're part of the profits that these big firms make. And I think if we kind of go back to the taxes, I think one important part of this is I think there's a lot of people out there who are just so used to this 4-year cycle. and they don't really know why it is. They just think that because it's happened before, it's going to happen again. And because alt season has happened before, it's going to happen again. And so there's a lot of people out there right now who are waiting for this alt season to happen, and it might never come.
It won't. It won't. It was built on zero interest rates, too much money sloshing around.
Yeah.
So people could invest in things that are total nonsense.
Yeah.
It doesn't that we don't have that environment again.
Right.
Yeah.
It just alt season makes absolutely no sense to happen again.
But the other thing that doesn't make any sense is people who are sitting with these altcoins that maybe they bought at $10 per coin. That's when they bought their whatever Shiba Inu or Zcash or whatever it is. They got $10. And so they have this fascination, like they're the only person in the universe they're waiting for it to get back above $10 before they'll sell it and flip it into Bitcoin. But they have to understand a couple different things there. Number one, everybody in altcoins is waiting to do the exact same thing. They're all waiting to cash out of their altcoins and get it into Bitcoin. So why not just get ahead of them at a lower price for Bitcoin? The other thing too is that let's say it went from $10, it shot up to $12, and all of a sudden they're in the positive. So they're feeling better about their investment. So they sell it. Well, you just triggered a capital gain there of $2 per token. So you're going to have to give a portion of that to the government. At the same time, Bitcoin's probably already moved much more than when you had it at 8. And so you're going to get way less sats than you would have otherwise got just by selling it, taking your loss, not paying any taxes, and just putting that into Bitcoin. Because at the end of the day, I don't know which altcoins are going to win. I don't know which ones are going to be used in 5 years, but I'm pretty certain that Bitcoin is going to be around for a very long time. And so that's the horse that I'm betting on. And if you're just kind of like logical and smart about this stuff, you can get way ahead of the pack here instead of being part of the pack.
The alt seasons of the past, you could literally buy anything and you would go up priced in dollars. Now it takes every Van Eck executive, every old VC going on Twitter, CNBC to pump one single altcoin. They're concentrating on one because they know they can't pump the entire altcoin space because
that's so true.
The rest of the market cannot facilitate just investing in absolute garbage. You know, it just doesn't work. And the other thing too, like we've talked about the capital gains, 90% of traders are going to lose money. So the government is going to subsidize the act of gambling and speculation by allowing you to have capital gains losses, right? And write that against your income tax.
Right.
So there's sort of the incentive to try to gamble and stuff, which is just, again, doesn't actually work. So, it's like a small concession that the government is subsidizing your reckless speculation.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, with their capital gains, they basically inflate the prices of everything and then penalize people for saving in the form of a capital gains tax on it, which is just completely criminal in my eyes. But that's a whole different thing. Anything else you guys want to talk about in terms of this? Should we give people some strategies in terms of dealing this, or where do you think we should go from here?
I just wanted to say, I feel like the best time to buy is when you really, really, really want to sell.
Yeah.
And the best time to sell is when you really, 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 really want to buy.
100%.
When you feel you're probably always going to be wrong. There's going to be a point in the future when everybody's like, oh yeah, it's going to $1 million now. It's going to $10 million now. And it's going to be at 150K. And that's when, if you really, really want to time the market, that's probably the time for you to sell. But I mean, the strategy, I don't think it's worth selling at all.
Yeah, it's not very manly, but you do need to get in touch with your feelings, and you need to recognize when you're scared and when you want to sell, because that's just going to take over, and you're kind of going to act on it. But if you just reflect and think, okay, why am I feeling this way? Oh, okay, well, the price is down. Okay, what should I actually do when the price is down? I should buy this asset that's going to appreciate at 20, 30, 40% CAGR on average over time, and hold it for generations so I can pass it on to my children and I can have generational wealth. Okay, that makes a lot more sense than my initial feelings of fear.
Yeah, always ask yourself, what do you think we should do here? And then just do the opposite of that.
The George Costanza method.
Yeah,
he does that.
But I mean, it seems like it works, right? Just doing the opposite. If you feel like, oh, I'm smart, you need to recognize that you're not.
Yeah.
Dunning-Kruger effect. There's the Dunning-Kruger effect going on with a lot of these people. There's the gambler's fallacy happening. It's yeah, you gotta check in and reevaluate what you're doing with
Yeah.
something as monumental as Bitcoin. Like it's just, yeah, I mean, other people have said it, but like, trading Bitcoin is a sign of lesser intellect. That's one way to put it, right? It just, it's crazy to let go of what you have when you don't have to, and when you're just trying to outsmart people with way more information, way more knowledge, way more capital. It just doesn't make sense to try to compete in that battlefield.
Yeah.
In terms of the DCA, the strategy, I think that that's one thing for me is like, yeah, on the channel, probably on Maple Bitcoin too, I've made some price predictions before. Also knowing that I'm probably going to be wrong about it, but that's just kind of like where my sentiment was at the time of saying, based on this is what I think could happen. But I'm never like betting my stack on it, right? I'm never like holding everything in cash and waiting for my prediction to become true, or I'm never like taking on a bunch of leverage knowing that my prediction has to be right, otherwise I'm going to get wiped out. Like I'm just, BSing pretty much for a lot of the time here. And the reality is that I don't know. Forrest doesn't know. Rajat doesn't know. That's the point, is that nobody knows what the fiat price of Bitcoin is going to be. And I think it's also important, even though we spent the first 15 minutes talking about the fiat price of Bitcoin, I think it's kind of important to note that in the long term, the US dollar and Bitcoin do not coexist. It's going to be one or the other here. So we're only going to be pricing things in fiat for so long before Bitcoin eventually takes over as the new unit of account. And we're actually just measuring things in sats. So your meal that you go out for, the tank of gas you go and buy today, or the groceries, at some point, nobody's going to know how much dollars they cost. They're going to know how much sats that costs. So that's kind of the weird position that we're in right now, being early in Bitcoin, being 17 years into this, is that we have to go through this weird transition, weird phase of both existing. But at the end of the day, they cannot both coexist. It just won't work. They're two completely different financial systems.
Yeah, and one way to think about that is if in the future it doesn't make sense to compare Bitcoin to the dollar because it no longer exists, and you project your present mind into this future, then it also doesn't make sense to do that today either. It's just a shifting of time horizons again, right? And yeah, it is fun to do price predictions. It's fun to think about. It's fun to look at the chart, all this price stuff. Like we live in this moment, so it's okay to participate in that. But again, it doesn't make sense to gamble your entire stack on this, or to rest all of this pressure on a price prediction that is likely not going to happen.
It's a good point. And I think that I think it's okay to gamble. Like, I bet on sports sometimes if the Masters is on or whatever, like, but you just have to understand that it is gambling, right?
Yeah.
That's the first step to it. And I think that even if people did want to speculate on the Bitcoin price going up or taking on some leverage against it, or maybe gambling on an altcoin that their friends are involved in, that's okay to do. Just don't do it with more than like 5% of your total stack. I think that that's the main thing.
And
Because
do it
no
with
matter how much you have today, whether it's like 1,000,000 sats or 10 million sats or a Bitcoin, just understand where this thing is going. Understand that this thing is going to be the unit of count of a future. Understand that there is only so many sats that will ever exist. And so you don't need 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 of them. You just need some. You can't lose all of it. So it's okay to gamble. It's okay to speculate, but just do it with a very small percentage of your stack.
and know that you'll probably lose it.
Yeah.
Like that's what most gamblers lose. So if you have that perspective, then it's like people go to the casino and they're like, I'm bringing $50 with me, and that's all. Like that's it. I'm not going to the ATM after, right? It's like, because they know they're most likely going to lose the $50, and they're okay with that. If you're going to gamble, that's the best way to do it. If you can avoid gambling, that's great too.
One of the worst things about this though is that if, let's say, you do guess and you have no idea what you're talking about, but you don't know that, you end up being right. That's the problem. When you end up being right, you get overly confident, and then you want to do it over and over again. And that's just how gambling works. I think, I don't know, maybe this is just the way that I think of it, but I think that one of the biggest appeals of gambling is getting it right. And then when you get it right, you just feed into it and you want to do it more and more and more. and it absorbs you. And that's I think that's going to happen to a lot of Bitcoiners. I think a lot of Bitcoiners are thinking we're going to have 4-year cycles, and who knows, maybe it continues. I'm not even saying it won't. Historically, it's happened for 4 cycles, and maybe it'll happen going forward. I don't personally think it will, though, because previously cycles were dictated by retail. Now they're not dictated by retail. So things could be completely different. But let's say, for example, they end up being right this time. At some point, the cycle will change. At some point, the trend will change. And let's say they do it this year, they end up getting it right. Let's say they do it next year, they end up getting it right again. Let's say they double, triple their Bitcoin, whatever. And then the following time, there is no 4-year cycle.
Yeah.
And they went from having, let's say, 1 Bitcoin to 3 Bitcoin because they kept doing this, they kept trading. And that's pretty great. You tripled your Bitcoin. That's perfectly fine. But let's say the next time you try to do it again, you bet all 3 Bitcoin and you end up getting it wrong. And you expect
Bitcoin's piece of paper.
You expect Bitcoin's price to drop 70%, but instead it rises 1,000%. And while it's rising, it's not like you're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna join it. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it. I don't want to be left behind. You're not gonna do that. You're gonna think, oh, I was right. That's exactly what's happening with Peter Schiff. It's exactly what's happening with people like that Ryan Hankey or whatever, that economist. Have you guys seen his posts? Bitcoin is he keeps saying Bitcoin is useless. It has no. He just keeps saying it. And then there's another guy.
Steve
Hankey. That's his name. Steve Hankey.
Yeah. I've seen
that's
that guy.
Like all of his posts. And there's another guy. He's a professor. His name is Rob Plum or something like that. Basically, what all these people. So Peter Schiff initially wanted to buy. He was told to buy Bitcoin at $1. He ignored it. $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000. He keeps going, and now he thinks he's still ahead because Bitcoin went to 100,000 and it pulled back a little bit. He thinks he's ahead now, but that's the thing. He got it wrong, and now his ego won't let him get into it, and that's what's going to happen to people. I think that's the end game here. These people who think that there's the 4-year cycles, eventually it's going to get out of hand, and they won't get their Bitcoin back.
Yeah. And if they do eventually say, okay, you know what, I was wrong, I'm going to buy back in, they're going to have a fraction of what they started with, and those are the people that are admitting that they're wrong, right? So
yeah, some people will never admit they're wrong too. So
it's just a bad situation.
And that's like the bet that people have to ask themselves is like, what's the best that I'm going to make out with this bet? On the flip side, what's the worst that I'm going to make out with this? So if I'm sitting on the sidelines with a bunch of cash, and let's say that I sold at 100 and I'm waiting for it to go down to 60, what's the best case scenario here? How much am I really going to get ahead? Versus what if instead of going to 60, it goes to 600 and I miss out on all of this action because I was sitting on the sidelines waiting for my prediction to be right because one graph on one YouTube account said that this was what was going to happen. And so you just kind of have to ask yourself, you're not really going to get too far ahead by trading, but you can get left behind by trading, right? Yeah. And Rajat, you kind of made a point there of like, why do gamblers do it? I think it's for definitely the highs when they win, but I also think that there's something to people like losing and being able to like tell a story to their friends and say, oh man, I lost like 10 grand last week. Like then it's kind of weird. Nobody really cares if they break even, but if they win or they lose, they have a story to tell. And that's what it is. And I wanted to bring this up here real quickly, boys, because when we look at like the difference between an investment and a speculation, I think that this is the perfect way to explain like looking at Bitcoin as a long-term investment where it accepts moderate measured risk with a reasonable expectation of gain based on fundamentals, right? We know that Bitcoin doesn't have earnings. We know it doesn't have cash flows, but the asset quality. And to me, this is like understanding what Bitcoin is, understanding what makes this asset what it is, and having the conviction to hold for the long term. Versus a speculation. People looking at Bitcoin as a speculation accepts a high chance of loss, sometimes total loss, which is they're basically just expecting to lose in exchange for a small, outsized, rapid gain. And so I think that if you just kind of shift your perspective of looking at Bitcoin instead of a speculation, instead of something that you're going to gamble and trade with, just look at it as an investment for you, your kids, their kids, and generational wealth down the line. And you really don't need that much of it. That's the crazy part, I think, that a lot of people miss. Mm-hmm. It's like they think they need to get to 1 Bitcoin or they need to get to 5 Bitcoin to be relevant. It's like, no, You just got to weather the storm for the next decade. And whatever you have is going to be worth more than you know what to do with today.
Yeah. At some point, you're gonna have so much wealth that you won't know what to do with all of it. Like that's where this is going. Like if it goes the way that we think it is, that's where it's going.
Instead of trying to learn how to trade to get more Bitcoin, you should be learning how to secure the Bitcoin you have and how to focus on your craft of how you're providing value to the world so that you can earn more fiat and have excess left over to buy more Bitcoin. That's the tried and true method of wealth creation, is earn money, provide value, earn currency, buy assets. Bitcoin being the best asset. It can just be that simple. You can simplify your life.
I was just going to add I think that's a great point there for us. And I think that, oops, I need to edit that. I think that one thing I was going to mention on that is like, people only have so much time in the day. People only have so much energy per day. And so if you're wasting your time and energy looking at the prices, waiting for it to do this, you could have put that to use in a much better way, in a compounding, small actions at a time. And that's, I think, what is actually going to make a big difference for people. So, I mean, if you like trading, like if you like sitting at your computer all day and staring at the charts, then yeah, maybe you're going to get something out of it. But for me, I hate that stuff. So I don't want to spend 1 second of my day looking at that, knowing that I could be putting my time and energy to better use to get more sats instead of trying to game the system here.
Yeah.
I was just going to throw up, sorry, Forrest, I was just going to throw up the price today for a timestamp.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, the other thing too, like, you're not providing value by trading Bitcoin. So
right,
you're trying, like you said, you're trying to cheat the system. You're trying to cheat the system, and the system doesn't like to be cheated. Like eventually it'll take back that value from you. That's why so many people lose at trading, is because you're not providing any value by buying and selling something. It just doesn't provide value to the real world.
It's not sustainable.
No.
Rajat, you got a QR code here. Oh, happy hour. Okay. What do you want to tell us about happy hour, Rajat?
So we have a Skool community where you can join. We have extra content on there. We have extra live sessions, tons of extra exclusive content that you don't get on YouTube. You can actually scan this QR code and you can join the group.
Yeah, and it's a way to meet other Bitcoiners and build a sense of understanding of Bitcoin beyond just what you can get from taking in, YouTube videos and stuff. Like being able to actually communicate with us and other people on there, I think is really invaluable. And I think, we have some masterclasses on there. We do a weekly live session that is you're actually able to join with a microphone and camera and ask us questions. It's pretty intimate. There's usually around 20 or 30 people there, and you can get your questions answered by us.
Yeah, and I think just having that, we just talked about only having so much time and energy in the day. And I really think that if you are spending your time watching videos like we have on the Skool community, it's really cool. Like the Skool platform itself is amazing. I'm very bullish on Skool in the sense that I think it's going to be the new version of like a YouTube, Patreon, Facebook kind of all combined into one. And so with this, you got like 200 people from around the world who are on your same frequency, want to learn about Bitcoin, want to meet other Bitcoiners. I don't think people understand how valuable networks are going to be in the future. In a world, if you subscribe to the theory that Bitcoin is going to become the new financial system, the new unit of account, you have to remember that Bitcoin operates without a middleman. And so without a middleman, you have to be the person who's finding the peers that you can communicate with and network with and collaborate with. And so it's the best place for this. And I think this is only going to grow over time. It has been growing since we started it. And it's a good investment. It's not a speculation. It's a good investment of your dollars and your time is spending some time learning about security, learning about the fundamentals around Bitcoin, growing your conviction. And then when the price goes up and down, you're not going to be as tempted to part with it. And that's kind of the whole point of this whole thing.
You're not going to want to trade the Skool membership. Don't speculate on it.
It's like Bitcoin. The price is going to be going up forever. The fiat price anyways.
Yeah. So
that's good stuff there. And the last thing I'll say here is we do have that QR code. It's beside nobody's head right now, but besides Forrest's head there. So that's our Maple Bitcoin. We don't have any sponsors on the show. We don't ever intend to have sponsors on the show. We think it's important to maintain our own voice and trust in our reputation here. So that's what we're betting on. So big shout out to everybody who has been supporting through the Skool, through the QR code. We also got an address at the bottom there if you want to send some sats to our Maple Bitcoin Reserve. So great show today, fellas. I think this will be useful for a lot of people out there going through the turbulence right now. And we'll talk to you in the next one.